So today we are going to talk about in-camera transitions. So I'll tell you guys which type of in-camera transitions I personally use, but also some examples from the past and from this video on what they look like. But I also will give you guys some advice and tips when it comes to the in-camera transition and what to pay attention to when you are recording said transition. But I also tell you guys how you can easily edit this transition within Premiere Pro. And I will also share with you guys the personal things I do to make this in-camera transition work. So, with that being said, let's start the video. So in the beginning of this video, the beginning sequence of this video, you guys saw the in-camera movement transition, or that's how I like to call it. And as the name implies, this transition revolves around movement of the subject in the video. In this case, it is me. You can do it in many different variants. You can walk out of frame, you can go up and down, you can look to the left or look to your right. It doesn't really matter how you do it, but it really revolves around movement. Aligning those two clips with one another so that it looks really smooth, that you have a really smooth transitions with the movement you do in your videos. And this is the way how I do it. I love to do it because I'm energetic, and this helps me to release some energy while I'm making videos. So let me give you guys some tips on how to record this transition when you are making videos, because 80% of this transition is done in camera when you are recording. So make sure that you know these tips and that you keep that in the back of your head when you are making videos and you want to use this transition. You need to make sure in most cases you don't want to contradict yourself in clip A and clip 2. Make sure that when you walk out left in clip 1, you walk in from the right in clip 2. This is where they join together, and this is where the transition starts to work. The second tip I have for you guys is write this down. There are some instances where you can contradict yourself because you have to in order to make this transition work. For example, I usually use I stand up and I go up in frame, and in the second clip I also go up. And the reason for that is to make this transition work. In this instance, I have to go up as well, or else it doesn't make sense if I go up in the first clip but I go down in the second clip. The reason why I say write it down is because you can visualize it for yourself and you have it on paper. I'm going out of frame from the left. Second clip, I need to come in from the right at the beginning. I go up in frame. In the second clip, I need to go up in frame as well. Always wrote this down so it made sense to me, right? It worked. So if you start out, make sure to write it down in order to make it much clearer for yourself. But with that being said, let's go into Premiere Pro. To start out with this transition, you need two clips, obviously. You need clip 1 and clip 2. And you need to make sure that the transition in clip 1 is at the end, and the transition in clip 2 is at the start. If this isn't the case for you, you have to go back, record these two clips again, and then try again at this point in the video. So the first thing we have to do is we have to find the start of the transition in clip 1. So what we are going to do in my case is, I know that my transitions always start when I'm done talking. So I have to find a spot where I'm done talking, and after I found that, I need to right click on marker and make sure I mark this spot so I remember that this is the beginning of the transition. So the next thing we have to do is find the end of this transition, and the end of this transition in the first clip is when my body is out of frame. So let's find this moment, find the moment where my body is just out of frame, and make a cut over there. So if we have made the cut, we can delete everything after the scrub because we don't need it anymore. What I personally do is I don't really cut it at the end where my body is completely out of frame. I usually cut it when my body is halfway out of frame. So now we have the beginning of the transition, and basically the same thing applies to clip 2. The clip 2 in this case has the transition in the beginning, and this time we walk in frame instead of out of frame. So the first thing we have to find is the end of this transition. And the end of this transition is where I start talking, in my case. So if you find a moment where you are talking again, we do a right click on our mouse and we make a marker again. If we found the moment where I start talking again, we go a little bit back into clip 2. But after this, after we found the moment where I start talking again, we go back a couple of frames and try to find the moment where I'm just out of frame. And if we have found that, we make a cut and delete everything behind the scrub. Now the final part comes into play. We connect those two clips together, clip 1 and clip 2. And if you have done it correctly, this is how the transition now looks. They look like. But I also will. The last thing I do after this is I add music. I always add music to this transition because this transition has a lot of empty space. So besides the really subtle and smooth walk out of frame, come into frame moment, this moment is really empty. So I add music at the beginning of the transition, so where I stop talking, where the first marker is, and I end the music where the second marker is. And I usually bump up the volume a little bit so that the music adds to the empty space. The music fills the empty space that is there. And if you have done it correctly, this is how the transition now looks. Video on what they look like. But I really think it's a cool transition. I like it, I love it. I use it every single video, almost every single video. And it's the most easy transition to do. In my opinion, the most effective transition to do. And adding the music with it, in my opinion, it's just a... So with that being said, I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new. And let me know in the comment section down below if you'd like to see more Premiere Pro videos. I like to make them. I think they are really refreshing to make. But if you guys love watching those, let me know in the comment section down below.